have a series of questions related to women working outside the home. To start with, can you give a general view on it when you think it's wise or unwise?
Our culture's old way of putting it was a woman's place is in the home, which I don't think is biblical at all. I believe the Bible teaches that a woman's priority is the home in a different way than the husband's priority is the home. She's the one she's the executive director of the home. She's the one responsible for the management of the home, the smooth running of the home and everything. So that's her priority. That should be her orientation. That should be her home base. But if you take what the Bible teaches about a woman's role, a good place to go is Proverbs 31. The ideal woman there is in real estate. She considers a vineyard and she buys it. She is a shopper. She's like a merchant ship bringing goods from afar. She's a philanthropist. She's ministering to the poor. She provides for her household. If you go through Proverbs 31 and think about what's going on there vocationally, it's not you don't get a picture of a woman locked up in a house saying this is your place. That's the place she operates out of. So I would say strongly that a woman's priority is her home. Her priority should be her husband and her kids, but a competent, intelligent, educated woman can do all kinds of things from the home and away from home, and so as the Lord leads. So the one rule of thumb should be for a woman is, what am I, if I'm going out here to do this other thing, volunteering at a crisis pregnancy center, am I doing this at the expense of what should be my priority, or is it simply an extension of my priorities?
And could you relate this to stages of life that families go through, and particularly Christian education and the demands placed upon a family?
Yeah, when we had 3 kids, and when our kids were preschool, they're all 2 years apart. When our kids were preschool, when they were younger, I was away from home. I was working, bringing home the bacon, and Nancy was home with the kids, and that's the way it was. When all our kids moved into school age, when they were all at school, when our youngest was in 3rd grade, I was teaching at Logos School. All 3 of our kids were at Logos School, and so Nancy began teaching at Logos School. She was there with the family, so she began working part-time at Logos School and did and worked there for a number of years, where our kids were. So you can't make a cookie cutter rule and say a woman can't work more than a half a mile radius from her house, or it's where's the family, how old are the kids. Let's say you've got empty nesters, and you've got a competent, intelligent, educated woman who's all her kids have grown, and she's got to prepare a meal for her husband who's coming home from work at 6. She's going to be staring at the walls by 9:30. Of course she needs an outlet, and there are all sorts of creative ways to serve in the church, to serve on mission committees, crisis pregnancy centers, the local Christian school. There are just a lot of things you could do, or part-time job, or there's not a problem in the Bible with a woman working outside the home, provided her priorities stay where they ought to stay.
And then a final piece of this, could you comment on how that all relates to the teachings in Titus 2:5?
Yeah, the older women are to teach the younger women to be husband lovers. I would render it's one word, husband lovers and children lovers. It's a compound word, and I would render it as older women should teach the younger women to be into husbands and into kids. Christian women ought to be domestic. They ought to be domestically oriented. Everything is directed toward home and family and kids. So I do believe that there's a problem, a violation of Titus 2, if you have a dink family, dual income, no kids, twin careers. They're both husband and wife are both climbing the corporate ladder, and kids would just get in the way. That's not Titus 2. that's just not that's the spirit of the age. That's the zeitgeist. That's not what we're about. At the same time, if Christians react to feminism, pull away from feminism and the corporate lies and all of that, by adopting sort of a quasi-Muslim approach to conservative Christianity, where women should be taught to read barely so that they can read the instructions on the side of the biscuit box and and stay at home barefoot pregnant in the kitchen. If that's what you're after, that's not Christian either. That's just as radically unbiblical, sub-biblical as this other stuff. I've told people that the level of education that your daughters receive will be the level of education of your grandsons. So when your daughters receive a certain level, they're going to marry at in a certain strata, and that's going to be sort of an upper limit for your grandsons. It's not possible to have education, learning, expertise, competence be bestowed on men and ignore the women. You can't do it, and biblical Christians wouldn't even think of trying to do it. So I think the balance is to be a biblical absolutist. You can't say it's biblical if it makes feminists mad. For starters, that's way too easy to do. You can always make a feminist mad. How many feminists does it take to change a light bulb? And that's not funny. So that's not biblical. So you want to avoid feminism, and you want to avoid what I call masculinism. You want to see that God has created man and woman with different roles. They have different tasks. They are assigned tasks. The man is to go outside the home and provide and protect. The woman is to be oriented to the home. But the Bible allows for all kinds of flexibility within that realm of home orientation. And I've seen it in my own family, in the women in our family, with Nancy and my two daughters. I've seen extreme competence outside, catering and running a gift shop, a flower shop, and teaching, and there's just, and all of it with a super orientation toward the home.